Welcome to Hero Club members only.
The show where Nick Williams and George Primavera, the founders of Hero Club, talk about Hero Club, D&D, and whatever the hell else we want with whoever the hell else we want. I'm Nick Williams.
And I'm George Primavera. And let's
do
this.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Hero Club members only. Glad to have you. This is where we talk about all the things that we don't get to say on the show, 'cause that's not our thing. Welcome to Hero Club members only.
For another special episode of some sweet quarantined Hero Club bonus content, we are in our respective domiciles, talking once again. And this week we have two absolute regulars and people who are there from the very beginning and associate producers of Hero Club. We have Dylan McCollum.
Hey, boys.
And Marty Abbe-Schneider.
Hey, everybody.
How's it going, you guys?
It's going good.
It's going great. Glad to be here in my house.
Same place as George, just in a different closet.
Yep, Dylan and I are in two closets on opposite ends of our apartment right now.
And I'm in a blanket fort that I had my girlfriend build me into, and I can't get out of it until she comes and gets me out.
Can't stress enough how much of a hero Becca Meyer is.
Oh, Becca Meyer, shout out.
I don't think anything would happen relating to Marty if Becca wasn't somehow involved.
Not only shout out, but also for me, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Well, Marty and Dylan have been with us doing Hero Club since the very, very, very beginning. They are in almost every single episode of Hero Club, barring extraneous circumstances. And they're also very heavy collaborators on the content that we produce. And when they're not playing player characters, when I'm dungeon mastering, I'll often bounce lots of ideas and we'll formulate some cleaner, crisper ideas for stuff. So these guys have a little bit more of a hand than just being like voices on the podcast. Marty is also our brilliant artist, our illustrator, whose his website is open, by the way. Quick plug, if you want to get an amazing portrait or full character body drawn for your D&D character or anything else, check out his Instagram at Marty Abbe-Schneider, but also you can look at Hero Club Podcast, and there's a link to it through there. And then Dylan is managing a lot of our social media. If you want to speak to Dylan directly, he is the person in charge of our Twitter account, and is also perhaps the most knowledgeable about all things Dungeons and Dragons in terms of like the game mechanics and community. Like Dylan's the most tapped in. Dylan's our inside man.
Our rule sheriff.
Yes, Dylan's our rule sheriff. Pew pew.
Just like Dick McCoy, I'm the man on the inside.
That's true.
That's right.
You are the man on the inside. So why don't we start off kind of how we started off last time, talking about how you guys both got into D&D for your first ever game. But Marty, why don't you start for the first one?
So before ever getting into like a game, a childhood, I think the first mention of it ever was some kid in elementary school, but the first time I ever really like learned what it was a childhood friend of mine had the 3.5e player's handbook, and I was just really into like the art of the handbook and you know, just looking through like, oh, all this stuff. And then that same childhood friend and a bunch of other people and us ended up playing or trying to play a game in like early middle school with a teacher who was, you know, very generous with her time. Shout out Morgan Bailey.
Was she your DM?
Yeah, she was our DM.
Cool.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, and
it's like just like Stranger Things.
Yeah, it was.
I know
cool
she was your AV professor. That's so cool.
It was interesting. I definitely would say that like this is such a dumb thing to say, but I feel like I wasn't like mature enough to really enjoy D&D. It was a bunch of middle schoolers, some of whom had like, you know, interconnecting drama outside of the campaign. Like when I really started having fun with D&D was actually partially when I started playing with you guys, and when I got into it in college with my college friends as well.
College is a sweet spot, man.
It's fucking great, dude.
You have a lot of time.
Yeah, you have a lot of time. It's when you can drink. Like,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Tuesday and you can sit down for 6 hours because you don't care about anything.
Oh yeah.
Just play a long session. Yeah,
Um,
no, it's the best. So what was your first character?
My first character ever. Oh, I don't even remember. I think it must have been actually, no, it for sure was just like a straight up elf ranger. Like Lord of the Rings had just like was fresh in the zeitgeist. Everybody,
You were a
like,
big Lord of the Rings head.
Oh,
You had a sting and a map in your room.
Oh yeah, I believe in my childhood bedroom there still is a sting and a Middle Earth map up on the wall.
Like a dope replica sting.
Yeah,
it's really
it's
cool.
Fully, like the handle and pommel and everything is fully wood and metal, but there is still the pommel still comes off and you can put batteries in so that the blade glows, but the blade still looks and feels real.
It's so cool.
Wow. I blew like a ridiculous amount of like saved allowance on it as a kid. But I was like, I'll for sure have this forever. Like
I did that.
Like
with
it was one of those purchases as a kid where I was like, yeah, I'm keeping this. This is
I pitch it up every time I went into your room, and you got mad at me every time.
Yeah, because I was like, dude, it's like
it's my most
a display
cherished item.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, by the way, Nick and Dylan and Marty and Jack and all of these guys in LA have been friends for years and years and years, and I am the transplant. So when they're talking about like going into each other's childhood bedrooms, that happened when they were like children, which is just for context. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
When I first picked up Sting in Marty's bedroom, it was definitely like freshman year of college. But
yeah, children.
Yeah, I think
that's just me and my
I was
personal.
hopefully a little over it by then. But yeah, so my first character was definitely like a straight up elf ranger, like 1-to-1 for Legolas. Because like that's what was fresh in the pop culture. And I wasn't at a point yet where I was like, you know what? I appreciate Gimli. I understand what Gimli brings to the table. I was
You're definitely a Gimli now.
I was a dumb 13-year-old, a dumb 12-year-old who
I was the opposit from the get.
Yeah,
I was
100%.
all in on Gimli.
And that's Nick. That's our whole dynamic. But I definitely just was like, oh, he's so cool. He skateboards down the stairs. Remember that when he skateboards down the stairs? I was one of those people just unironically, completely 100% was just into Legolas because of how cool he is and like Orlando Bloom's raw charisma. He's so handsome.
And now we've all seen his huge hog, so that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
my high school
because of
girlfriend
you, Nick.
My high school girlfriend was too into Legolas, so I dealt with a lot of that. I hated Legolas.
I'm pretty sure that every single one of us has at least one connection to some girl who was too into Legolas. It actually, for me, it was probably a little more Will Turner, but there's definitely some Orlando Bloom baggage we all have because there's some girl who liked Orlando Bloom at a time that we liked her. Yeah.
Made us feel bad about how we weren't Orlando Bloom. Yeah. Oh God.
Right around the same time, Orlando Bloom came out with like a 1-2 punch of like two hunky hunk boys that teen girls would love in two different properties that we also would love. So it's very weird.
We also very weird.
It's the reason for my terrible haircut. Like I have
not currently.
Yeah, I have my terrible middle school haircut. In middle school, I thought, well, he has long hair. Disregarding and ignoring any like movie magic or whatever for Legolas and his natural, just like nice, greasy, whatever. But I was like, well, he has long hair, so if I grow my hair long, I will look exactly like him.
Huge.
Is
we
like
all made
what
that
my
mistake.
thought process was.
Rookie. Hate to see it. You hate to see it. Oh, you should have seen my hair in high school. I had ponytail.
Oh, boy.
Oh, George, no.
I never put it in a ponytail. I never put it in a ponytail because I'm not a monster. But
you had long enough for ponytail. Dylan, what about you? How did you first come to D&D?
The first role-playing game that I ever saw was when I was way too young, and my brother and cousin were playing Vampire the Masquerade back in the 90s.
Nice. Wow.
Which is a very adult game that they were too young to be playing.
Yeah.
Which is, a game about, vampires in modern times, it's very sexy.
Of course.
And I had no idea what was going on, but there was a lot of dice, and there was a lot of like RPG dice in my brother's room that he never used. And then RPGs just fell off the face of the map for me. I had no idea about them at all. And then really what sparked it was Arkham Horror, the board game. Arkham Horror was a game that we started playing as a friend group because we just wanted something to do. Co-op couch video games had kind of fallen off the
big time.
Like
the greatest injustice of all time, by the way.
That was a huge part of our whole friendship.
And so we were looking for stuff to do, and so we went to like a board game, like friendly local game store, and we were like, "Hey, do you have something, anything?" And they were like, "Hey, try this game out." And we liked the game, we loved the game a lot, but our favorite thing was like role playing the characters in the game. Like Nick, you loved Ashcan Pete so much.
The craziest murder hobo of all time.
Can we hear just a touch of his voice? Can we just hear a touch of Ashcan Pete's voice when played by Nick Williams?
Let me see.
Back up from that mic.
I can
back up.
Conjure him from deep within my soul.
He's there.
I'm Ashcan Pete. Where them crates at? Get me down to the docks. I'm gonna find a magic item.
Yeah, there it is.
Dylan. And actually, everybody, speak for yourselves about the role playing. I, with Arkham Horror specifically, only cared about saving the town of Arkham and was always a mix of relieved / infuriated when inevitably Nick, who would only go to the docks to look for work and have hobo adventures, he'd be the one to win the game and to save
because I was
everyone.
Just doing
frustration and relief.
I was just maxing out one location and getting every possible item. So I'd come into the final fight with 6 guns, and you would be like, "Well, I have these clues, and these clues are important," and I would just shoot the monster like 1,000 times.
That's true. I would have lost whatever weapons I got because I would always try to go on the different quests and do the different things, and inevitably I'd end up getting, attacked by some monster. You ruined my life for like a year, Dylan, is what I'm saying by introducing me to that game.
Getting back to Dylan, so Arkham Horror came along, you started crushing at that.
Yeah, and then and then Nick took Arkham Horror to college.
Yes.
And introduced it to me, and that's where I started playing Arkham Horror, and I played it for years.
And then Nick was like, "Hey, guess what? The people I played Arkham Horror with, we played D&D." And then was like, "You should play D&D." And then pretty much the rest was history.
Yeah, we had our first, we talked about this a little bit last week, or last Members Only episode, but the first campaign we played with you guys was at home, I think when I came home from college, and it was like summer break, I think, and we played with George over Skype. And that you were playing as my first character, Badger's long lost half brother, who was also a bear, but he was a polar bear, and he was a paladin, and they were completely diametrically opposed in every way. Because Badger was a real murder hobo, and you were like a lawful good paladin.
Yeah, it was really mostly just because like I had no idea how to play. And so I was just kind of like, "Hey, Nick, is it cool if I just am what you were so I have like a connection and can figure out like have something to lean on?" Like, but also like we have no idea who we are. We don't know each other. We don't like each other. We have the same dad.
Same dad, and that's
that was it. Same dad that I don't know. Yes. But yeah, Jasper Faithmender, also known as Jasper the Large, was my first character. And he's pretty much the catalyst for every character that I've ever played.
Yeah.
Every character is like Jasper in many ways.
Yes, that's very true.
He's also the first of 2 characters that I've named with the last name The Large.
That's true.
Who was the second one?
Bastion Lagrange.
God.
Does Lagrange mean the large?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
I'm nothing if not unoriginal.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, That is Jasper was so great, and I do think it is very funny, like looking at both of those two bears. Those two characters have really like been clear launching paths for both of our character arcs when it comes to D&D, where I think like both of us are like me much slower, working towards like kind of like more complex versions of that same theme, where it's just like, how could like instead of being like just lawful good, I'm gonna have this fucked up secret, or like, and for me it's like instead of just being like a murder hobo, I'm gonna be like very smart but have like one element that I am like fighting through that makes me make bad choices sometimes, instead of just like choosing the wrong choice every time on purpose.
And we'll talk about it later, but I have a
did
memory
that a
from
lot.
that game that I want to talk about in this episode because I
we'll
want to
talk
remind
about it.
George of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. So
Oh, I was gonna say, so why don't we, because we all four of us are here, why don't we talk about kind of like the start of Hero Club a bit? Because
do we want to talk about the
let's talk about
beginning?
the very beginning. Why not? So
Oh yeah, okay.
we have this a season that is not. It's a secret season that is not out, that you cannot listen to.
Some people heard it.
A couple people heard it.
Some people heard it and liked it.
In the very, very beginning, because it was released. But it was really kind of our tester season that was like how we kind of got the kinks out of the mechanic of Hero Club. And it was
and by the mechanic we mean how we did it and also how the technology worked, because all of us came in with zero sound knowledge. Didn't even know how to work GarageBand in the basicest sense.
And like how much profanity we're allowed to use.
And profanity.
So
we were really
it was it was a Christmas season that was a apocalypse story where I was playing Santa Claus, who had been usurped by Krampus, and the world had been thrown into chaos because of it. And all of the other seasonal characters like the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and Cupid had all been corrupted by Krampus's evil magic. And we played, it was kind of like a tester run through 6 different genres where we kind of blasted through different genres, and each character or each villain had its own genre. And Marty played the Easter Bunny in that as kind of a like badass outlaw rabbit, which was very cool. And Dylan played a really fucked up Cupid that still haunts my nightmares, to be honest.
Really gross, squeaky, sexual Cupid.
Yeah.
It was very
gross little pervert.
It wasn't as sexual as it could have been, and thank God we pivoted.
Yes.
You said almost nothing sexual, but the manner in which you said it was uncomfortable.
You were just talking
it was really
strokes the whole time. It was disgusting.
Yeah. It was, look, honestly, shout out to Mage Hand Press, because they liked us because of that.
That's true.
Wow.
It's insane.
Like, I forgot about
that. You all.
Like, bless them for for having faith in us.
Yeah, we'll release that season eventually once we feel comfortable enough to show us our butts.
No promises.
No promise.
No promises.
I think we'll release a highlight reel of the dopest moments.
That's better.
And
that's better.
Yeah. That season, the first maybe 10 minutes of that season, I put my mom off of Hero Club forever, and my parents didn't listen to Hero Club again until this pandemic, where they have run out of things to do, and now they're listening to the latest season.
To be fair, Marty, pretty much right up top, you describe unzipping someone's taint. So
so what I mean by that, Nick, to clarify, is stabbing the guy repeatedly in the fleshy spot between his balls and his asshole. And
God, we deleted the season, Marty.
But what's funny is that the season becomes a Hero Club season that you know and love, like right near the end, because like right at the end, Santa and Rudolph are like looking out at the horizon.
Yeah.
And like the music swells, and like you're like, oh my god.
Like how am I emotionally attached to this like absurd nightmare?
How did this happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the moment, and of course there's no context for this, so I'm so sorry, but there's a moment where Santa traps the Easter Bunny in a magic circle, filling with eggs.
The Easter Bunny had an ability. Marty had this ability where he had an egg that would like multiply itself and fill spaces, and I trapped him within a magic circle while he had one of those eggs.
And I did it knowing I would kill myself, but thinking I would get you and take you down with me. And then you just backed out of the circle.
And you drowned in a sea of eggs, which is such a great, ironic death for the Easter Bunny.
Oh, it was lots of fun.
Those are the two moments that like stand out to me as Hero Club as we know it, but then everything else was like,
There was Cupid had like a tower. Cupid had like this tower like that you had to scale to get to the top to do the boss fight, and that session actually became the impetus for, if you listen to Oh Holy Nights, when all of the knights go through their trials, we sort of cannibalized what was an insane romp through a illusory tower in which Santa was
faced with a bunch of impossible moral conundrums that Nick Williams couldn't possibly handle. Role-playing Santa, the most lawful good character of all time. George put me in a situation as Santa Claus.
No. Oh no, don't tell it.
Oh yeah.
Tell the fun ones. Don't tell the one that I regret.
No, I have to do it because I'm mad. I'm mad now because you brought it up.
All right.
So George put me in a situation.
This is just. Oh man, I'm gonna feel embarrassed by that. Go ahead, keep going.
And
it's fine.
You're gonna have to help me tell it. So put me in a situation where Santa Claus like came to. It was like a bunch of rapid fire like nightmare scapes, and Santa like came to in a movie theater with a sick little boy, and her it's alone in a movie theater. There's a sick little boy who is dying of cancer. And his two parents, and Santa was trying to, like, me as Santa, I was like, okay, I should like help this kid because
it's an early screening. It's an early screening of Avengers, is what I said.
Because that dates exactly where we were.
And Cupid's whole thing was that he would force Santa to make a bad choice or else take a penalty.
Yes.
Like take a damage penalty. So the whole point was that the morality of Santa Claus would inflict damage on him. The encounter in my head being that Santa would never do what Cupid told him and would have to expend most of his lay on hands, making the final fight like a little scarier. So the prompt for this scenario was, Dylan, do you want to do it in your disgusting Cupid voice?
Oh God.
I honestly don't remember. What was it again?
Talk the whole time. Talk during the entire movie.
It was talk. I can't do the voice.
I don't really want you to.
And they don't want that.
None
of you want
that.
None of you want it.
And to be fair, Nick, trying to get around the problem while not taking a penalty, talked the whole time.
But I was also Santa Claus.
Santa Claus talked the whole movie.
It was just the beginning.
But you were...
And I was trying to help a sick boy as the literal Santa Claus who could probably have cured his cancer.
Yes.
So it was a impossible situation where you made it so that at the end, it looked like Santa was just shitting on a little sick boy's whole life, like his Make-A-Wish. And there was no way for me to win.
It was an illusion, Nick.
Yeah.
It was an illusion.
It was an illusion.
I mean, they were all illusions, thank God. And also, they're all illusions within a fictional Dungeons and Dragons game. Thank God.
There's no, just to be clear to all of our listeners before y'all get mad, no little boy was harmed.
I don't know. That whole season was based on real events.
The one that I really made the encounter for the scenario was the 80s party in which Santa Claus found himself to be a teenage boy at a house party the 80s.
Also heartbreaking.
And Susie, the coolest girl in school, asked him to dance, even though his best friend had a crush on her.
Yep.
And so Santa wouldn't disrespect his best friend by dancing with the person he had a crush on, and then that was a successful one. But
that scenario is such a great indicator of like, here's who this is made by.
Yeah,
Like-
no kidding.
Like, you know, these 4 weird white guys who
have experienced this exact moment 1,000 times over. Let's play it out one more time as adults.
You know, when Susie, the coolest girl in school, comes up to you and talks shit about your best friend who likes her.
No, that was the origins. That was really us finding our feet, and the reason that Hank Blackstone is our first season is because the jump in quality was so insane.
Yes.
We learned so much. It's night and day. It doesn't even sound like the same thing.
I George and I have said this a million times that like every single season, and we talked about this with you guys obviously, but like every single season we have learned like one giant truth. Like it's always been like this season,
one giant sound editing truth.
Yeah, it's like this season George is like footsteps. Like every single, there's like one nugget where it's like, wow.
Everybody steps in.
Yeah, it's like, wow, it's amazing.
But like that,
and different kind of footsteps, like marble footsteps, grass footsteps, concrete footsteps. Yeah.
That first season to Hank Blackstone though yielded so many do's and don'ts.
Yes.
I think for everyone who was part of it, and then especially for you guys as the creators, just going like, oh, this is what we're going for, this isn't, and this is how we do it all while still having it be a D&D game that we're playing.
I think with Blackstone we really understood like, okay, there has to be like that heart moment that Dylan was talking about at the end with Rudolph, that has to be like the center of every season no matter what. Like that's got to be the driving force behind everything. And especially if we're choosing, if we are making this like it's a show, you know, and like we are all kind of driving our role play towards it being a great story and our improv towards it being this great story, that there has to be, like with a real TV show, a real movie, a real book, that the heart needs to be the driving force behind that story. Like,
you know how none of us ever fill out the bond or flaw section of the character sheet?
Correct.
Like, it's like those become the most important part, but you still don't fill it out.
I've never, ever once filled it out.
But I know it by heart.
Me neither,
I study it.
Yeah.
But I've never once done it.
Yeah. Most of at least I know Marty went to school for art, but at least 3 of us went to school for like acting. So like all of that stuff is sort of like at the forefront of our brain when we're playing
Marty
D&D,
is
especially.
a writer.
And Marty is an amazing writer, so he is right there with us where he's always thinking about character motivation.
I don't mean to brag, but I dropped out of the Bard film program. So I was in a film program for a little bit, studying storytelling.
I didn't know that.
I mean, forcing them to let me study storytelling before I
Cool.
bailed on that and went into the art thing.
I didn't know that.
No, I mean, it's just always been about storytelling. Anything that any way you can make it about storytelling has been.
Well, and I think that is exactly what that big lesson was from the first season. Is I think the Santa season was way more about aesthetic and premise than it was about the story. And I think also we gave ourselves the impossible task of starting with a morally perfect character who cannot grow any more morally perfect. And giving like a character who cannot have an arc, pretty much, and trying.
Right.
It made for a great accidental murder when you put those guards in the bag of holding.
That was great. But I mean,
that was one of my favorite parts of
there were a lot of like really funny parts, but it was just kind of, there wasn't really like a story there.
The Blackstone was like the first time. It's probably the loosest of the seasons still that are up right now. There's a lot of out of character talking, especially from me as like the DM. One of my biggest things in Adversary right after became like, it's not going to be so colloquial, and I'm going to try to speak a little more formally, so it felt more like a narration. And I think that all of us as player characters also took that to heart. When we started playing characters, like, for example, when we were in Adversary or Here There Be Monsters, when you two were playing PCs, Dylan and Marty, everybody's narration was, we took a lot of time to think about it, and at the table, like it might take 30 seconds to just like really quick get our thoughts together before we deliver the description of our character. And we found that time and not feeling like we have to rush like we're in a live improv setting really made for a much better product.
It's not surprising that was like that was the beginning really of like the "Are you sure it's not written?" was like adversary.
Yes, right.
Because
Adversary
it
was,
sounded a little bit more prepared, but it was like, so it's not surprising that's where it happened, but it was like, yeah, it's because we took like a couple seconds more to make sure that we were saying what our characters wanted to say.
Yeah, adversary. I think it is. Dylan, you always put it really well, which is that like we are saying what our characters should be saying and should be able to say in that moment. You know, it's like if that character was just told the combination and has the innate ability to memorize all numbers, but Dylan McCollum doesn't have that ability. You should be able to ask George, what's that number again, without it being like a huge problem, or be able to take a second and remember, like, this is what he would say in this scenario, because we are like
in my games.
In Hero Club, because we're telling this story.
Yes, in Hero Club.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of people, it comes up a lot in like charisma checks in D&D games where it's like, oh, well, should you be able to like make the check before you say things, and then like whatever you say is just aided by like a high roll, and so even if you say bullshit, like the high roll puts it through. But like if you have a high charisma and you rolled well, you should be able to say something that matches that roll, in my opinion. It shouldn't just be like, wow, you're super sexy, so you just said some shit.
Yeah.
Like, or you can say like you said, or you can be like that, like, no, I am just really hot, and so what I said was good.
As Jeremiah, I needed to collect myself right before I talked so I could talk with big crazy ass words. But it is not written.
An adversary, right?
It is all improvised and was very hard, but I'm very proud of that. and we all have those characters where I think they shined because we were able to collect ourselves and knock it out of the park because of that.
Oh, sorry. In the spirit of improv and D&D, what Nick and I did last time with the zombie apocalypse, coronavirus gone especially bad, even though it's already horrific, we are going to do something a little bit more lighthearted, and we're going to take a little trip to a tropical vacation.
Let's set up what this is again for people who didn't listen to
Okay,
the last
yes.
one.
So for people who didn't listen to the last one, what Nick and I used to do when we were bored or trying to kill time, or even if we were somewhere other than one of our places in college and we had to be waiting for something, is we'd take a D20 with us and we'd play like a chaos game of Dungeons and Dragons, where essentially a 10 or higher or an 11 or higher is a success, unless the task is especially difficult or crazy. And pretty much the session can only end and will end by everyone dying who is playing, or by one person succeeding. It's just sort of a completely ridiculous group storytelling effort, entirely decided by almost a coin flip.
It's D&D at its most base bones form.
It's RPG at its most base bones form in a way, really. It's just any kind of roll mechanic. Yeah. So in that for this particular little one shot, we're gonna open on all three of you, Nick Williams, Dylan McCollum, and Marty Abbe-Schneider, all on a beautiful white sanded beach with turquoise blue water, clear skies, maybe a couple of white clouds in the sky, a beach tropical area. Where should we put this? In Florida, this hellscape we're living in.
Hawaii. George.
Hawaii.
Let's do Hawaii.
Florida.
I was trying to give you the most. Well, in my mind, Florida is the funniest possible city to put what I'm about to put into this.
Florida's a state, George.
But in our minds, none of us would ever go to Florida.
Hawaii it is. That's all right. So on the beautiful beaches of Oahu, all of a sudden, all you guys hanging out on the beach, just relaxing, catching some rays.
George, it's lanai or nothing. I'll be dead in the cold, hard ground before I go to Oahu.
That's what Marty is saying on the phone to George in this scenario.
Yes. Yeah, I'm screaming on my cell phone that to you.
George emerges from the tree line, also on his cell phone, trying to talk Marty down, holding 2 big coconuts with straws in them. George approaches the 3 of you. Hey guys, this is a pretty cool little vacation we got right after the big pandemic was magically cured.
Wow.
Is one of those coconuts for me, George?
It sure is, Marty. And George hands Marty a coconut.
Marty throws the straw out and drinks everything that's in the coconut.
It's so beautiful. Hey, Nick, remember when you worked at a coconut factory? Wow.
Yeah.
I just think it matters because, coconuts. Aren't you sick of them yet?
I will never be sick of them, Dylan. Coconuts are my favorite.
George, drinking the other coconut, walks over and looks up over to one of the other islands of Hawaii and sees some smoke suddenly billowing out of one of the tops of the islands. And he says, hey guys, do you guys see that?
Do we?
Everybody make a perception check.
4.
7.
Nat 20.
Only Dylan sees it.
Yeah. I see it, George.
What do
Looks
you
bad.
see? Please explain to me what you're seeing.
Volcano?
Roll a nature check with no bonuses. I don't know why I'm specifying what check this is.
11.
11. That looks like a volcano.
Yeah, no, it's volcano, guys.
And then suddenly, the boom after the visual smoke reaches the island, and everybody gets shot back into the sand. Everybody clasping their ears. Everybody, make a dexterity save to get your hands up in front of your ears in time.
10.
7.
That's a failure.
3.
Everybody's ears begin bleeding. As the immense sound. Everybody has 20 health points. Please take away 3.
All right.
So you're all brought down to 17 points of health. Keep your eye on your own HP.
Nick abandons the other 2 and starts sprinting down the beach.
Okay, Nick running down the beach all by himself. Dylan, Marty, what are you 2 doing?
I look at Marty and went, I knew it. I knew he'd do this.
That coward. Hey, Dylan, I heard that if there's a volcanic eruption, you're supposed to go in the water to get away from the lava because water slows the lava down. You want to jump in the water with me?
Sure.
Great. Marty and Dylan jump in the water.
George, you coming?
George says, yeah, hold on 1 second. And he's just grabbing a couple of things from the campsite. Not the campsite. He's grabbing more coconuts. He's carrying them up in his arms, but he's about 100 feet away from you. And as soon as he's like, hey guys, I'm coming, a giant volcanic rock falls from the sky and crushes him flat like a bug.
Oh! The fool! I told him not to take anything.
Dylan dives into the water.
Nick doesn't notice because he is booking it down the sand.
Marty dives into the water with Dylan.
Dylan and Marty make a constitution save for your swimming prowess.
Oh, come on!
What'd you get?
9.
18.
Marty can't swim and begins flailing wildly.
Do I see him?
Roll a perception check to notice Marty drowning.
9.
You don't see him.
I'm gonna reach out and try to grab Dylan to pull myself out of the water.
Okay, make an athletics check to grab at Dylan.
16.
You grab Dylan. Dylan, make a constitution save as Marty begins clawing at you, freaking out.
Nat 20.
Nat 20. Dylan, floating on his back like a raft, just tells Marty to stay calm, and the 2 begin to float.
Oh, I'm floating now?
Yeah, he's saved you. Dylan just saved you from drowning.
Thank God. The plan worked.
Cutting back over to Nick, who is sprinting along the beach as lava rocks crash around him. Make a dexterity save to avoid a small flying rock, Nick.
16.
Yeah, one of the rocks gets way too close to your head. You panic for a moment as it slams. Sorry, I'm going in for my mic. As it slams into the sand next to you. And then you see that there are several other beachgoers that are panicking, gathering up their things and throwing them into the back of a Jeep, which is running, but nobody is sitting in the driver's seat.
Nick hijacks that Jeep and takes off.
Okay.
Leaving them behind.
One of the guys who is closer to the Jeep just yells, "Hey!" and tries to grab you out of the Jeep. Make an opposed grapple with me. Here we go.
8.
7.
Yes!
You shove him back into the sand and steal the Jeep. Wait. And as you are peeling away, you see a flurry of lava rocks kill all of those people.
Yes! Nick jacks up the radio and starts blasting that song where it's like, been driving all night, been head on the wheel, that one.
I'm going to roll a radio check and see what's playing. It is not that song.
Damn it.
It is Britney Spears' Oops, I Did It Again.
That works too.
That's still a jam.
Still a pretty hot jam. And every offbeat of the song seems to correlate with a giant lava rock smashing into the sand. Nick, you see a portion of the sand that has been blown apart by massive meteoric rock falls. And there is a small, very, very skinny sand natural ramp. What do you do as you approach?
Obviously, I gun it towards the ramp.
Okay, roll that check.
Botched hard.
Botch hard. The Jeep slams. It misses the ramp completely. The sand ramp just immediately falls apart as the tire moves over it. Complete fallacy. The Jeep takes a downward turn into a cavernous crater. Nick, you are shot out through the front windshield. You will take 10 damage from the crash.
Oh my god.
And you are flung out into the sand.
And I'm going to attempt to start sprinting again.
Okay, Nick picks up. Your leg is broken, so your speed will be halved. So you are...
Oh, no. Oh, gosh.
Are you still running along the beach or into the trees or into the water?
I'm still on the beach, but like closer to the water, but kind of just limping along at the water's edge.
Okay. Dylan and Marty, meanwhile, you, while floating calmly, start to look out at the other island that has exploded, and you start to see lava covering the entirety of the island. The trees start to bend and snap and fall to the lava, disappearing underneath it. Even as the lava gets to the bottom of that island and starts branching out into the water, you see black rock begin to expand outward. And as rocks fall around you, the waves get choppier and choppier. Both of you make another Constitution save to stay afloat.
5.
3.
Oh my god.
The water gets so choppy that both Dylan and Marty disappear under the waves. And in the underwater, seeing all of the rocks fall and then slow very quickly as the bubbles rise to the surface, you see a panicked pod of sharks.
Marty goes completely still.
Marty, roll a stealth check.
9.
You're flapping, even at your stillness, the shape you have made is the perfect replica of a sea turtle, a shark's natural prey. And they begin to investigate, and they start to surround the two of you.
Dylan tries to feed Marty to a shark.
Roll opposed grapple checks for that. Yeah, what do you resist, Marty? How do you resist?
I would like to resist and scratch Dylan hard enough to draw blood.
17.
Fuck! 10.
Okay, so Dylan sees what Marty's trying to do and turns it around on him, taking a very sharp shell and razoring the front of his chest as blood plumes, and then Dylan just shoots away like a little cuttlefish, swimming very adeptly away from the pod of sharks. Marty, 3 sharks descend on you. The first one attacks and rips into your chest, shaking you on the water.
I'm going to reach out and squeeze its eyeball. How much damage did I take, though?
You take 4 damage. Now roll your attack against the shark. Dylan is still swimming away.
Yep. Did you botch?
You botch?
Yep.
Okay, I don't have my botch dice with me, so I'm just gonna roll and multiply by 5 on the d20.
Ooh.
All right, so that's gonna be a 55. You take 2 more damage as your scratch spurs a shaking with the shark's jaws, and you are trapped within.
Oh my god.
Two more sharks swim up and try to grab both your legs. The attacks are a failure as you pull your leg away, and 1 success. You take another 5 damage as one of your thighs takes a big chunk out of it.
I'm gonna try to tame the shark that's attacking me and get it to take me to Dylan.
Roll an animal handling check.
15.
15. Marty makes very prolonged eye contact with the shark that is 3 inches deep into his chest. As he does, the shark releases him, blood pluming into the water. The shark then bops the other 2 sharks who are trying to eat Marty alive, and all of the sharks look at the other shark. Wordless conversation is exchanged, and then all 3 sharks buoy under Marty and carry him on top of the waves, streaming towards a now backstroking Dylan. Cutting back to Nick. You're sprinting along. Yeah. Limping along the beach with your one leg. You see a helicopter pad on the beach. But this particular helicopter has 2 armed guards outside of it, and a very well-dressed couple is hopping into the helicopter.
Oh, shit. Do I see anything that could be a makeshift weapon around me? Like a big stick or a large rock or something?
Roll a perception check.
12.
12. You do see a sharpened bamboo stick that was previously used as like a thing to roast things over the fire.
Great. I'm going to attempt to stealth up to near them and skewer one of the guards through the neck with the bamboo stick.
Roll that check.
16.
Both guards are preoccupied with helping the wealthy couple up into their now spinning helicopter, the rotors blowing sand everywhere. They're unable to hear Nick's silent approach. Roll your attack.
10.
Nick, with his femur in half, goes to try to stab one of the people with the big stick. It's not a bamboo stick. It's just like a hard piece of wood. There's no bamboo. I don't know why I said that. You get like an inch into his back, but don't really get much of a stab at all. And he turns around and tries to clock you with the butt of his automatic weapon. Nat 20. He hits you with the butt of his gun, dealing 5 damage, knocks you into the sand, and holds the gun on you.
I'm at 2 health.
What do you do? Both men are now holding their guns at you.
I'm going to very embarrassingly beg for my life.
Roll a persuasion check.
9.
They leave you.
Please.
Neither man shoots you to finish you, but they all hop into the helicopter, and the helicopter starts to rise off the ground. Is there anything you do as they begin to leave?
I'm gonna try to grab one of the rotors or the feet and hang on for dear life.
Roll an athletics check. Here it comes.
Another 9.
You get about 40 feet off the ground. 40 feet high, and then the helicopter starts to fly over the ocean, and then you lose your grip and fall. Roll a check to right yourself in a dive into the water to not take any fall damage.
Botch.
Nick gets into a perfect dive formation, goes straight down into the water. It looks like it's going to be the most beautiful swan dive of all time. And then Nick enters the water head first, and then only gets about 4 inches deep into the water before his head collides into a sandbar, and he breaks his neck and dies on impact.
Yeah! Outlived Nick, baby!
Cutting back over to the shark-wielding Marty and the panic-swimming Dylan. Dylan, what do you do as you see the sharks approach?
I put my head under the water and attempt to call dolphins to my side.
Roll an animal handling check.
8.
Dylan puts his head under the water, screaming a high-pitched tone, but nothing happens. Marty, the sharks descend, bringing you under the water with Dylan. What do you do?
How many sharks do I have at my disposal? 3. I send 2 sharks to kill Dylan and tell the third to take me to land.
The third shark turns around and Marty heads back to land. Dylan, 2 attacks come your way from the sharks. One is a miss, and another is a hit. You take 5 damage as one of the sharks bites you in the leg. What do you do in response?
I call for dolphins once more.
Animal handling check.
14.
And suddenly, there's a bit of silence. Dylan takes 2 more attacks.
Okay.
One of which is a hit, taking 5 damage, and one of which is a miss. And then suddenly, a pod of dolphins! 40 dolphins!
Yeah.
Just rip the shark's limb from limb.
Oh, no.
Limb from non-existent limb. Flipper from flipper.
Yeah.
And then Dylan, rising above the surf atop a horde of dolphins, begins to give chase to Marty atop his single shark, both heading back towards the beach. Marty, what do you do?
Have I made it to the beach yet?
You are just about to reach the beach. You still have a coconut on you, and that's all you have to your name.
I throw the coconut at the most load-bearing dolphin.
Okay.
17.
Success. The dolphin goes unconscious. Dylan, make a dexterity save to switch dolphins.
2.
Dylan goes underneath the surf, tumbling, and gets run over, so to speak, by 30 dolphins. Roll a check to see how much damage you take.
11.
A next save. So you take 4 damage as the dolphins slam into you over and over again.
Okay.
How much health do you have?
3.
Marty, how much health do you have?
11.
Okay, Marty reaches the shore. Dylan far behind. What do you do, Marty?
Marty starts throwing rocks at Dylan. The reason why they got in the water, forgotten.
Yeah, okay, throw some rocks.
3.
This is 1. 3. The rocks are...
How many do I get to throw?
Just 1.
Yeah,
it's
3.
for all of them. All of them come completely short. Make a dexterity save for being on the beach as the lava rocks fall above you, and now cinders are starting to fall and catching fire to the forest behind you.
I didn't want to go back to the fiery island. I wanted to go to a good island.
No,
okay.
All the islands are bad.
What?
All the
You said
islands
back
are...
to the beach, Marty.
You said back to the
back
beach.
to land.
Also,
I said to
all
land.
of the islands...
I said back to land.
All of the Hawaii islands are lighting on fire from cinders catching the forest on fire, and rocks are falling everywhere. So every island's in the same shape except for the
See what we have to deal with,
island.
people.
13.
13, you avoid the rocks falling around you. Dylan, you reach the shore as your dolphins propel you up, and you and Marty are face-to-face on the beach alone with rocks falling around you.
I dive back into the water and hope that the rocks get him.
Okay, roll a Constitution save for your swimming once again.
16.
16, Dylan takes off back through the water. Marty, make a dexterity save for falling rocks as you yell at Dylan, maybe?
I'm looking for a boat.
Oh, roll a perception check. This is a big one.
14.
14, you find a motorboat.
Great, I hop
just
in.
a couple hundred feet away. You hop in.
Yeah.
Make a check to see if you find the keys. Investigation.
2.
You don't, but there are oars.
Great, I row. I start rowing away.
Okay, the boat starts to row out to sea. Dylan, what do you do?
I swim as far away from Marty as possible.
Okay, roll a Constitution save for your swimming.
13.
Still okay. Marty, what are you doing?
Continuing to row and sending my last shark after Dylan.
Dylan, another shark comes towards you. The last shark, the shark that is the friendliest to Marty, attacks you through the water. You see it rise underneath you. You can make 1 check to try to save yourself by beating its roll of a 15.
Nope.
And Dylan is eaten alive.
Ha ha! I am the last survivor of our vacation.
That's truly Marty's greatest dream.
The sun blocks out Marty as the ash begins to throw everything into darkness. Rocks begin to fall in the ocean around you. The surf becomes unbearably insane. The waves topping 40 feet high. Make 1 check to keep your boat righted as it begins to rise and rise on top of a massive wave.
All right. Botch.
Marty, trying to row the giant motorboat, makes almost no headway in trying to turn the boat so it'll be okay. The wave takes the boat, turns it over. Marty, you take 10 damage as you are slammed into the surf.
Great, I'm at 1 health.
You're at 1 health. What do you do as you begin to drown? Make a Constitution save.
All right. 13.
13, you are treading water effectively, but it's terrifying.
Marty is going to try to awaken an ancient god and make a pact with it.
What do you say to the god?
Let's just say it's Cthulhu. Cthulhu, hey, it's me, Marty. Save me and I'll serve you forever. 8.
8. You see a black shape suddenly block out the sun even further. It rises above you, gets larger and larger. The shadow expands. What do you say to this thing as it approaches you?
I just speak in tongues, like...
And a gigantic boulder crashes Marty into the sand underneath the water, killing him instantly.
Great.
And everyone has died, and that is Chaos 20. Marty is technically the ipso facto winner for being the longest survivor. Well done, Marty. You won, sorta.
Thanks, George.
Yay!
And that's it. That's how we do it, baby. Very nice,
Wow.
guys.
Okay.
That's lots of fun.
So now that we've all died horrifically on vacation, why don't we get to a question? We have a question from @_buttstallion on Instagram. She said, "What's everyone's favorite and least favorite character they've played and or experienced during a campaign?" That's a really great question.
Let's do least favorite first.
Oh, I mean,
Dylan's got one.
villains. If it's a villain that I've hated the most,
That you've
then
wanted to kill the most. Yeah, that's fine too.
then it's Dashel.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
It's Matt's
Oh
character.
yeah, for sure. That's an awful.
It's-
Yeah, he's awful.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not like I just didn't like this character, but like, no, like Matt, who is my brother, but Matt's character in Adversary, Dashel, the cult leader, I wanted to kill that guy so badly. And we did in a horrific way. And it was a really sad episode, but it was a cathartic
That
moment.
it was.
Yeah, it was a nice
that it
comeuppance.
was.
Dashel
It
sucked.
was cathartic to listen to it with the music under it too. Like that just made me feel better about it too.
Man, I wanted to like primal scream after that.
Yep,
I know.
big time.
Marty, how about you?
My least favorite, I mean, the one that immediately comes to mind is probably Chase's pervert slug. Nick's brother.
Oh, Blorf Mulchpleen.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
that guy. What actual race was this creature, George?
He's just a monster.
Oh no, we just made up I homebrewed a slug monster for him to play. And he was like, I want to be able to do this, this, and this, and I wrote it into the character.
Nick's younger brother, this is like something out of Rick and Morty. Nick's younger brother joined us one time to play, this was before Hero Club, to play like a giant slug monster who had like this weird, like, he was like a giant pervert slug monster, and he ripped my gnome druid, Babbitt, in half, killing him, and then used one of the halves as a butt plug. So
Yep.
I did not like that character for those reasons.
Understandably.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair point.
That was gross. He had a lot of like babies, like in egg sacs that he would shoot out.
Oh,
from,
yeah.
like, he was so
Yeah, it was
gross.
gross. It was bad.
Yeah, and
What
I
about you,
had
Nick?
like just gotten the hang.
Oh, Marty. No, go
I had,
ahead, Marty. You
just gotten the hang of my character. Like that episode committed like a bunch of huge mistakes that I really, like, in awesome ways, fixed all of them, and then I had just enough time to fix those mistakes and then get killed.
Like, well, at least you redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
What about Nick? Any least favorites?
It's really hard. Dashel is definitely probably my number one.
You can have duplicate
But
answers.
you
Yeah,
know what?
for sure.
Like, just to reiterate, probably Dylan's Cupid was one of my least favorite things I've ever come against
Yeah.
in a campaign.
Yeah, that's
Truly
super fair.
terrible. I never, like, oh man, it was so bad. every single line made me want to kill myself.
Yeah, even when he turned good, it was bad.
Yes, even good Cupid was horrible. Just the horniest, weirdest baby.
Yeah, he was like a happy horny baby. It was gross.
It was gross.
That was nasty. As a DM, I haven't encountered that much, but I played a Pathfinder game. Is that okay? Can I say that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Why?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
why not?
I played a gnome cleric that I named Jed, or Jeb with a B, Jeb. I worked out this really weird thing with the DM I was playing with. Shout out Clay Westman. Where I had insanity points because I followed a god of insanity. And as I would spend insanity points, I would earn insanity points by facing off with an illusory unicorn that was my nemesis. And if I defeated the unicorn at random points, I would gain it would just be like we'd be going up the stairs and nothing would happen. And then my character would go like dormant and have a mental fight with a unicorn. And if I succeeded in the fight and killed the unicorn, I'd gain an insanity point and I would allow myself to see health bars. Like I could see HP totals.
Oh, that's cool.
So the unicorn became my nemesis. And if he defeated me in combat, I'd take like huge penalties. So he became my least favorite character to encounter.
Fair.
But it was super fun to actually play.
Yeah.
And then most favorite, do you want should we go backwards or should we just go back around?
Let's
in
go
order?
backwards.
with
And
you.
why don't we make this Hero Club specific? Because I feel like that'll be interesting.
Hero Club specific
Let's
for
go
favorites?
favorite player characters we've played in Hero Club.
I only play NPCs in Hero Club, but I count those as characters. Probably Dick McCoy from Blackstone is my absolute favorite. He's just an opportunity for me to be an idiot, but also move the story forward in a fun way. Because he's like a police department, or he works in the police department, so he has access to a lot of things, especially in this current season. He's a sergeant, but he is like first and foremost a huge fan of Hank and Charlie and very loyal to them. And so with his access but lack of loyalty, he allows Hank and Charlie access to a lot of cool stuff. I think I have a lot of fun with him. And what about you, Nick?
Yeah, I think probably Jeremiah. Jeremiah, I think I just really like how that personality came out, and he was also just really fun to play. Gunslinger, that's Mage Hand Press's Gunslinger class, and it is a very fun class to play. It's a lot, especially at level 10, which I think we were playing at. It's a lot of like, instant reloads, and you get crits on 19s, and it was very fun. And it's a lot of like switching between guns, and I liked playing kind of a sassy, roguish asshole and I also, Deadwood is like one of my favorite shows of all time, and I was straight emulating Deadwood in that, just trying to go as like profane but also Shakespeare-y as possible. And that I'm very proud of that one. That was really fun to do.
I really had a blast building and then playing Vivian Stoker.
From Here There Be Monsters,
And Here There Be Monsters. I love that world so much in general. I'm a big fan of like, Redwall and any kind of animal fantasy. And then I think the version that you built, George, was like so, keeping with those aesthetics, but then also its own thing. It was really great. And Vivian specifically was one of the main times I've had a really good time building a character and picking their stats and like their classes, but having that also be their like integrating that into their backstory. So like he's a
warlock, right?
Yeah, like he's a multi-classed rogue and warlock because he started out being, a thief and a rogue, and then when he got shipwrecked, he like learned how to, magic. And, stuff like that. Like, that's the first time I had a really good time with, like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
PC or NPC?
Ooh, you pick.
Does it matter?
You pick. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you have the option.
Like, I was going to say Bastion, but, like, just to spread it around to talk about other seasons, like, I actually, like, loved 7.
Oh, from
I
Rift
loved
Rats,
Zilch
7.
Yeah.
I think that character became one of my favorites because every episode, I was certain that that character was going to get killed by the players, and then he didn't.
Even in the episode where I tried to kill you.
Yeah, no, and that was just a hilarious thing that George and I had discussed as like a fun way to keep the idea of the main villain around.
Yeah, so we didn't like lose track of the main guy.
Yeah, like to just like have like an echo of him, like, and then and we were like, you know, pretty certain that he was just going to die, and totally fine with that, and then evolved into a member of the crew,
a full player character who I guess we're gonna have to roll up next season.
Yeah,
maybe, like, yeah, and like the veracity with which like Hannah as Reagan was like, no, he lives, was baffling.
Yeah,
and it was, and the freedom to play a character that was so stupid and crazy was so funny.
Also, your little
Seven.
Orphan Black moment at the end of the last episode where you're voicing a bunch of different clones and Seven and the Emperor. Like, it was just...
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
I'm surprised no one on their least favorites said any of the clones and their giggles, because that was very a nightmare for me.
For me, Zilch is just kind of like a... Cupid with the
light.
edges waxed off a little bit.
Yeah, he's a watered down Cupid. He's not as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I loved Seven.
In a good way. Thanks for that question, Butt Stallion.
Yeah.
Nice Borderlands reference. Nice Borderlands. I like that. That's so awesome. So usually we just end these little things with a fun D&D memory. We kind of just went down memory lane, so we can keep this kind of quick, but this doesn't have to involve Hero Club at all. Just give like a little brief, super fun memory that you think is a sum up of a little bit of your D&D experience, what you like about D&D.
Okay. Very quick, and we'll probably go into this more another time, but the first time we ever played D&D, the final battle...
Oh, I knew you were going to say this. This was such a bummer for me.
Back in 4th edition, there were these things called dailies, which were, you could only do them once a day, and they were more powerful than anything you could do, and I nat 20'd, and I killed George's favorite villain that he rolled up in one hit, and it was my favorite thing that's ever happened.
Oh my god, he just stacked like so many abilities that I think you ended up doing like 92 damage or something so upsetting, and like the character...
I put it all on one attack just to like see what it would happen, and I rolled the dice and it went well.
Oh, so well. Yeah.
There's a whole story behind that one, but that one was amazing.
That was a good one.
It was a cool, like, it was a cool, awesome drow archer that I named after like a Legend of Zelda villain, Goma. And it was really awesome, and she didn't get to do anything. She didn't get to do a single thing. Killed her right away. Ugh. Marty, what about you?
What about you, Marty?
I had a really good memory. This is from college. I played a dwarf bard named Pooh-Bah the Fool, and that was sort of my first experience of really getting like Nick Williams level into the role-playing aspect of D&D, where I would get as drunk in real life as Pooh-Bah would get in game every session, which was a lot. And then I also, like, he was a bard, and I forget if this was 3.5 or 4. I don't think it was 5e yet. But I didn't even realize I had songs. Like, wasn't even using that as like an element of my character. Didn't realize I had them. Mostly I would just bullshit my way into stuff and then bullshit my way out of stuff. And that was fun enough because, like, you know, such a huge part of the game is the role playing and having fun. Like, that was the first time that D&D was illustrated to me as like, it's not a game you're trying to complete and win. It's you're just sort of, you know, quote unquote, like living this character's life. And that was a lot of fun. Like, that was really great.
Yeah.
For us, it's definitely, I think, that across the board. Some people play like that D&D to win, and that's a totally legitimate way to play. I think it's really fun to do like combat simulation and stuff like that. And like, I used to do battle rooms with my friends in New York, where it was just like, pick a characters that we've been playing for a long time. Here's an insane scenario, and it's all about beating the combat, and that's a lot of fun. But Hero Club is just like, I think we all love the role play aspect, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
My favorite for sure. Yeah.
Me too. Well, I think that will just about do us for today, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Oh yeah, of course.
Everybody, make sure to follow and subscribe to us, Hero Club Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter. And keep checking in. We're gonna
And Facebook.
And Facebook. Keep checking in. We're gonna keep dropping Blackstone every 2 weeks, and it's really, really kick-ass this season. We have some really, really absurdly awesome guests that I can't wait for you to hear. And in the off weeks, we're gonna keep dropping these. Sometimes they'll be just like this, with different guests and different people we've had on, and sometimes we're gonna do random full one-offs with crazy scenarios that we could never do in Hero Club because they're too crazy. And so stay tuned for that, because that'll be really fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those one-offs.
It's gonna be a good old time. We're gonna do some like a death race or something scary.
Yeah.
I like the PvP element. I think we're gonna do something cool. We'll see though.
And Dylan and Marty, where can people find you on social media?
Oh yeah, just both my Instagram and Twitter are at Whatcha McCollum.
Great.
McCollum and Whatcha. It's a pun, you see.
And do you have anything else to plug, Dylan?
Oh yeah, I've been on a couple of podcasts with Tandon Productions. I play Arthur on a stoner adaptation of Sword and Stone of King Arthur called The Sword and the Stoner,
which is very good.
And also,
you should all listen.
Which is very good.
Yeah.
And then also I'm in a romantic comedy version of Hamlet with the same company called His Royal Fake and Highness. So check those out, because there's nothing else for you to do. So you have no excuse.
Yeah. And Marty, what about you?
So I'm on Twitter as Martweetsy, but my main stuff, especially in terms of what I do for Hero Club, is on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at MARTY Abbe-Schneider, ABBESCHNEIDER, Marty Abbe-Schneider. And the link is in my bio, but I've got a newly launched website where I will do character commissions and draw I'll draw your D&D characters, your Pathfinder characters, whatever RPG characters you want to draw. There's a form you can fill out and basically describe them to me, and I'll draw them the way that I illustrate the Hero Club characters. You can go to martinsmenagerie.com.
Martin's Menagerie?
Yeah. And it's in the bio on my Instagram. So if you go to Marty Abbe-Schneider on Instagram, you'll find it in there.
Heck yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And as always, welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club, baby. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Love you guys.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Welcome to Hero Club, members only. Glad to have you. This is where we talk about all the things that we don't get to say on the show, 'cause that's not our thing. Welcome to Hero Club, members only.